Hello, everyone, dear colleagues. Welcome to our sixth Global Healthcare Travel Forum and Conference, which is being held in North Cyprus. Today, we have already successfully completed 3 different sessions. Right now, we are about to begin session 4. In session 4, we have various academics with us, and we will start by the presentation of Dr. Elis Erdenizci.
Hello.
Elizabeth, whenever you are ready, you can start your presentation.
Okay. Is the presentation visible on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Hello again, everyone. Today I will present my presentation called Body Meets Architecture for Kids. Here I will try to reflect the intersecting issues related with architecture, human body, and human health. So to start with the body itself, body always had an important role throughout the history, acting as an inspiration point to define metaphorical or morphological issues about design, as well as acting a foundational source for anthropometric measurements and proportional systems that helped us to define ratios and particular standards that we deal with in our architectural design. It was also important to understand body in terms of its biological systems, its biological qualities, which is to do with the biomechanics, acting as a resource in terms of designing more adaptive, high technology constructive systems for the future generations as well. But basically, in our research, we wanted to focus on body as an instrument in architectural education. So it became a popular approach in the recent years to use human body in architectural education, especially when we teach built environment to the kids. How we do this? By exploring the human body through focusing on the differences that can be created by the altering body positions and educate the fundamentals of this structural system to the child in terms of their bodily experiences, and at the same time promote them body awareness at their early ages. Professionals also emphasize the importance of creating this body awareness for the children in their early ages and span this kind of studies for a long period of time to achieve the best results out of it. But unfortunately, in today's world, children and young generation keep facing numerous expectations, and they are constantly facing a kind of a stimulation through the internet and other social media technologies. And modern society keep offering them these plenty of distractions, and these distractions are usually unwelcoming attractions. Linked to this usage of the new media technologies. And since we live in a globalized world, globalization is also exposing changing demands and changing standards all the time, creating a stress and particular mental health problems for the kids. There is also increased pressure to succeed in school because of this competitive environments created in the schools. So children are becoming more in need of such tools that would help them to listen in more their bodies, feelings, ideas, and contribute to achieve balance in their life as well as positive mental states. So it is highly crucial to learn how to cope with stress at early ages nowadays. But however, unfortunately, we lack this type of education programs in North Cyprus that directly targets the creation of this body awareness or lack to use the pedagogical benefits of body for the children. So in light of this, our research aim to identify and review the current programs or similar activities that help children to listen in with their bodies, as well as highlight the importance of using body as an instrument both in teaching as well as with physical exercises to cope with the stress at the early ages of the children. This is one of the current programs that we have found out who had the same objective. It's called Yoga Arch Program. It's an educational program developed by the Sepla and Sarolu in Turkey, and it aims to teach basic structural principles of the architectural elements to the kids through bodily experiences. The schedule itself has 22 different asanas, which is to do with the yoga positions, to explore how buildings erect on earth, how their loads are transferred to the ground, and how they protect their integrity. For instance, in here you can see some of the positions that are inside this yoga arch schedule diagram. Every pose is directly matched with an architectural element, and the body itself is used to reflect that basic system. For instance, we can see here a column example or an arch and the direct effect of generating that arch force on the body itself, or a torsion force here, for instance. This Yoga Arch program also developed particular workshops with the children where each child had the chance to explore the limits of their body by these altering yoga positions and examine how the weight of the structure is transferred to the ground just by using their bodies. In the first example here, for instance, we see supported dome and the necessities for that to keep its integrity. An example of a tensile system here, for instance, or a folding bridge on the third visual. And this is another tunnel pose. We can see that each child is passing through this tunnel and experiencing how the system works just by using their bodies in a playful environment and having fun and learning at the same time. Of course, that was not the only study that focused on the role of the body in education. There are also studies, especially another study by Danor and Tarar, who focused on the use of the human body postures for simpler teaching learning experience. In the first visual, for instance, we can see how the gravity of the center keeps changing by the altering body postures, or using body in the second visual, for instance, to explain how particular forces are occurring on the buildings itself. We have also found out school-based yoga programs that help to develop concentration and intellectual functioning of the children. These programs illustrated that yoga can be an effective method to promote physical fitness, motor skills, or increasing attention to task, mindfulness, as well as helping stress reduction in children. And their findings demonstrated that yoga can be useful for social and intellectual functioning, improving emotional regulation, behavior, concentration, physical fitnesses, communication skills, etc. and etc. Many benefits. Also, teachers of these programs indicated that students were highly eager to join, and they improved their attention among the classroom activities, and especially the children who had particular problems in their emotional behavior or learning skills illustrated developments in their self and social confidence, as well as improving their communication and contributions in the classroom environments. On top of all, we have also found out that there are particular yoga programs for the specially able children. And these programs, here we listed some of the examples of that. Yoga for the children with cerebral palsy, Down syndrome problems, autism, attention deficit disorder, hyperactivity disorders, etc. And these yoga programs illustrated that there's a tremendous developments in their basic motor and cognitive skills, as well as enhanced concentration, balance, and control in the everyday activities of these disabled children. So to conclude, we have found out that these kind of programs, activities are highly contributing to the body awareness at the early ages and guiding children to comprehend their own existence in the world. How they do this? By deepening their connection with their bodies, creating awareness of the positions, movements of the body parts in relation to their muscles, joints, and at the same time easing their stress levels, generating better balance and stability, as well as improved mental and emotional well-beings. On the other hand, it also helps to enhance children's physical perception of the environment by helping them to understand the environment they live in through the human body. How they do this? They use the skeleton system supported by our muscles as the teaching tool to comprehend the laws of the balance, the basic structural principles of the architecture itself. So, last words to conclude my presentation. Body awareness, health, and exercise practices can be realized by combining architecture and yoga without needing too much space or any kind of equipment. And children who have the chance to discover themselves at their young ages can create an awareness of their own bodies, as well as have the chance to discover their future talents. This is highly important to increase their self-confidence, as well as improving their health-related development. And through this study, we highly recommend the need to integrate this similar type of programs and approaches to the curricular school activities of the children in North Cyprus to promote healthy lifestyles for them. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Edis, for your contribution to our conference, and thank you for your presentation. So our next presenter will be from our keynote speaker, Dr. Zekai Shen.
I wish the best of all to everybody. And today I'm going to talk about climate change risk adaptation principles from healthcare viewpoint. All right. Now, of course, so far as climate change and global warming are concerned, they are very at the top of each agenda on these days. Whatever the sectors are, there are different sort of sectors. Energy sector is the principal channel. And then transportation and agriculture and wastage and the things. And among them, there is also one which is the healthcare. Unfortunately, although there are many works and studies and research reports, so far as healthcare is concerned, in many countries, including my country also, unfortunately, there are not enough sort of information. Now, first of all, if we think about the man, of course, we have three different sort of parts. So one of them is our, body, and the other one is our mind, and the third one is our spirit. Okay, but whenever we think about the last two, these are without weight, and they are very sort of soft. But the medical people, they're concerned with the body. And we have to care about our body in order to survive in a healthy way. And therefore, the climate change, the question is, does the climate change make any sort of impact on human health? You may have heard from the news, in different channels. Of course, there are. And what are these Now, in general, climate event, there may be positive or negative sort of effects on human health. Of course, you will be very much wondering what are the positive sort of effects on human health, and I will come to that point later on. Now, if we think about the basic essential commodities that are very useful for human, and we will find over there, the first one is the water, and then of course food, and these are the two very basic factors that affect the human health. Okay. And the climate change has the most effect on water cycle. The water cycle, the evaporation, and then, the rain, and then the runoff, and then reaching to the sea, the surface water. Now, what are the points that we should take into consideration for human health care? Of course, there are various different types of illnesses, and these illnesses are, supported by climate change, and therefore we have to take some precaution. Evaluation of health effects and psychological sort of, impacts are also under the effect of climate change. What are these? And there may be sometimes the floods, for instance. On these days, we are seeing the floods which have not been experienced in anywhere in the past, and they are becoming more frequent. They are becoming more severe. They are becoming also in rather long durations, and all of this affect not only the health of the human, but unfortunately they lead to loss of life, not only human life, but animal life also. Another point is that, of course, there are pathogens that survive, especially in winter, but this may cause, increase in the severity of the deserts. And so far as my country is concerned, for instance, Turkey, winters have been shrinked to a shorter duration. And that is also another effect of climate change on human health. Now, high temperatures, of course, everybody is very accustomed with high temperatures, and you have to have a sort of, air conditioning, for instance. Of course, air conditions are also affecting the human body healthness. And therefore, the more the climate change becomes with the high temperature at any point, then of course we have to use, especially in our offices, in our homes, the air conditioning. And these air conditions also, in an indirect way, due to the climate change and global warming, they affect the human and animal life. Food supply and safety. These are also very important because, as I mentioned right in the beginning of my talk, I said that there are different sectors, and one of these sectors was agriculture. Okay, now what happens is that, of course, the agricultural products are being shifted towards the polar regions. Why? Because with the global sort of temperature increase, the climate belts that are around the equator will shift northward and southward. And therefore, so far as my country is concerned, for instance, in the coming 30 or 40 years, we made a model, and that model told us that the desertic sort of areas in the southern part of Turkey will penetrate as a desertification into my country. All right. Now, another thing which is very important, and we have done a search of climate change on human health for Turkish, one of Turkish ministries, and therefore we came to different sort of conclusion. weak points which are concerned with the climate change and opportunities that are available. And the other thing is that the threats which might cause more effective human health cases. Now, I must mention at this point that, of course, so far as the climate change impact on human health is concerned, do we have numerical data at our hand, or rather than numerical data, do we have some verbal sort of concepts that have been obtained from climate change experts as well as the medical experts? Now, among the weak points, including my country, in many countries, you see the possible effect of the climate change, unfortunately, have not been, accounted or examined in detail. What is happening is that, of course, many countries that do not have their own models for such a work, and they enter internet or different sort of reports from World Health Organization and related other centers, and they reflect all this information in their language. Now, of course, there are risky sort of situations also, including the human health care under warming, increase in the temperature. Now, although we are all talking about increasing temperature, in some areas there might be decrease in precipitation or increase in precipitation, and these two effects, which are extreme events so far as water resources are concerned, of course, they are also effective on human, and I would say not only human, but also all the plants, animals, and human. So we have to take into consideration what might be the effects, even though they may be not very significant, there may be weak points, but we have to take the precaution right from now. There are some opportunities also, you see. As far as the climate change on human health is concerned, there are increases in deaths, especially during very high temperature, extremely high temperature periods, and also increase in disease, especially the chronological sort of illnesses might be triggered by climate change. So therefore, we have to take into consideration such impacts for future improvements of human health. It is not that only whenever we feel that we are sick, we go to the hospital and we consult a specialist, but the time is coming, in a way unfortunate from my side, that we have to go to specialists of medical people who are also specialists in the impact of climate change on human life. Yes, with the increasing of disease-carrying environments, which might be cooler or drier climate regions. There was a phone call anyway. And another thing is that, of course, as an opportunity, it will be very, very supportive if we would have health information centers in any country in order to get numerical as well as the verbal information, which must be accumulated for the benefit of society. Predictions, of course, we cannot make any prediction numerically, even if we do not have the data. Unfortunately, the numerical data is not that much available, as I will come a little while later. Population number in different regions is considered, and this is very simple sort of numerical data. But as for the subjects of climate change on human health, is not that much known numerically, but verbally, of course, different sort of experts, they have expressed their ideas. And these are very much available in the publications or reports by World Health Organization. Now, what about the threats? So far as the climate change impact is going to increase, unfortunately, if we are not going to take precautions as mitigation against the climate change or adaptation, which means that we must live with the climate change by adopting our, social life or daily life accordingly. Of course, in order to do this, the society must be educated. What are the basic principles that human health should take into consideration? Now, lack of information, of course, there is very much a big threat. And many countries, they do not have, even verbal information. As I said a little while ago, that international sort of sources, internet and others, one can enter and get information. But unfortunately, the climate change, if we talk about the global warming, now it is everywhere. It means the average increase in the global temperature, which should be less than, according to Paris Climate Change Agreement, 2 centigrade degree. But however, on these days we are living and increase the average increase or global temperature about 1 centigrade degree, and that is even causing different sort of environmental and water and energy problems. Now, of course, staying in the sun, extremely in hot weathers, we already know about this. That is very dangerous. We have to pay. Now, as I said a little while ago, water resources are important, and they are also impacting the food production, agricultural productions, and therefore it should be agricultural activities should also be renewed under the light of climate change, not in a whole country perhaps, but if in different regions of country. For instance, as my country is concerned, the Black Sea region is different than, let us say, a Mediterranean Sea region. Food ingredients, etc. Okay, I talked even about this. Now, let us come, alleviation, recommendations. What might be the recommendation in order to protect the human health care against climate change? Now, there are illnesses that are caused due to the quality change of water under heat stress. Yes, that is very important, because we are drinking water every day. Another point, we must reduce water-related health effects that might come out of climate change. And we have to develop climate change health centers for each country. And even there may be a central sort of authority, but there should be also regional authorities in order to cooperate with the sectorial activities like transportation, like agriculture, like energy, like wastage, and the things like this. Now, the severity of diseases will increase under the light of climate change, and that should also be taken into consideration. The climate change also has, impact on extreme events. Whenever we say extreme events, these are not only related to water, but it may be related to heat pollution, for instance, that is also affecting the human health. Now, we have to stop, of course, the transmission of diseases as much as we can by mitigating against the climate change, or by, adapting our social life with under the umbrella, I should say, of the climate change. Now, numerical disease data, unfortunately, they are not very much available, but including even my country, recently, many medical schools, they are getting interested in the climate change and its effects, and there are some wearable risk studies also about their impact on human health. Now, I will skip. Now, of course, another point is that, of course, there are risks, as I mentioned, of climate change on human body care, and which has been carried out as a project by Istanbul Medipol University about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, for the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, as we name it today. Now, if you look at this table, of course, verbally, we don't have very much numerically, but as a human, we can, out of 100, we can classify numerically, but these are not the data. We have, low risk, and medium risk, high risk, and very high risk, extreme risks, and we can put them into numbers and then explanations. Of course, whenever we say low risk, there should be some explanation. You can read all this. My time is going to the end. Now, I have already mentioned about the floods, droughts, water shortages are very much important, because as the climate change impacts on surface water resources behind the dams, for instance, and in that case, not only the human health, but also the energy, hydroelectricity production energy will be affected. Of course, the reduction in energy will cause some, services not to function as they used to be. Okay, I have already mentioned about the classification of risks, which should be taken. I mean, my advice here is that, although the numerical data is not that much easy to obtain, but I think the medical staff, they should care about the verbal classification, so that whenever a patient appears in front of him or her, then they will be able to advise what to do. And these risks are, again, high risk might be, it is very difficult to take a precaution for people, and that it is high risk. And if we are able to take some precautions by working, adaptation activities, and also the mitigation sort of, fight against the climate change, in that case, we may reduce the high risk. So it will be a medium sort of risk. I think I have been given the information that I should finish my presentation in 20 minutes, more or less, and I came to the end of this 20 minutes. I'm leaving these slides for those who will be interested to read it further. And I thank you very much for your, care about my presentation, and I wish you all the best. Hope that in the future you will not be subjected to climate change or global warming impacts anymore. So try to stay healthier, and also have a very productive health care in your body. But as I said right in the beginning, it is not only the body, but you could also use of mind is very important, and spiritual or moral sort of feelings are also supporting the human body health care. Thank you very much for your care and for your patience.
Thank you very much for Dr. Zekayshan. for his valuable contribution to our conference from the beginning. Our next presenter will be Dr. Manal Ganam on behalf of Dr. Bilgan Kaymakamzadeh. Yes, Dr. Manal Ganam, right now your microphone is muted. Yes, can you?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can
right now.
do this. I'm preparing the slides. Can you see the
Okay.
slides or not yet?
No, not right now. We cannot see it yet.
Right. Yes, now?
Yeah, right now we can see it.
Hello? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished audience, professors and doctors. My name is Manal Ghannam, and I'm highly honored to be a speaker in this conference. And I'm excited to share with you our article, which is Evaluation the Success of IVF in Northern Cyprus. Table of contents, we have introduction and purpose, material and methods, data analysis, formulation, conclusion, and references. Infertility and IVF. Infertility is a significant challenge for many couples, according to our research. It affects highly around 12% of couples globally. In vitro fertilization, or IVF, has become a well-known treatment within a field of assisted reproductive technologies, ART, to help couples facing infertility and achieve pregnancy. As infertility is a global issue affecting millions of couples worldwide, Near East IVF Clinic is dedicated to continuously improving its IVF success rates, ensuring the best possible outcomes for our patients in spite of decrease in total number of embryos implanted and an increase in the recipient age. Our method here, we employed a retrospective analysis designed for this study. This involved examining data collected from around 253 patients' file and clinical records that maintained at the Near East IVF Clinic between 2015 and 2023. The analysis encompassed a total of 253 IVF treatment cycles. We utilize IBM SPSS software version 27, which is a well-established statistical software program to analyze the data throughout the analysis. We maintain significant level of p-value less than 0.05, of course, and we used chi-square and t-test for testing this significance. IVF programs. In our sample, we divided all the sample into four parts. We divided them into number one, which is the regular IVF, and which is I'll speak about it next slide. Second, we have the oocyte donation or the egg donation program for a young fertile female with age from 18 to 32 years old. Then we have sperm donation. At the end, we have both sperm donation and oocyte donation, and we call them embryo donation. Now, general idea about IVF, we can say, as you can see in this figure, it illustrates the stages that the regular IVF patients, after doing clinical, of course, and laboratory testing, we have ovarian hyperstimulating from around 8 to 12 days of drug injection to encourage the development of follicles, the source of future eggs, then trigger injection when 3 or more dominant follicles or at over 17 millimeters are seen via ultrasound to start oocyte pickup. They called it OPU. After 35 to 36 hours by quick, straightforward surgical operation carried out under anesthesia lasting for around 15 minutes. After that, if the oocyte is yielded in OPU, sperm is obtained and fertilization of the oocyte via sperm injection, they called it ICSI or ICSI techniques, is used and support the endometrium with pure progesterone. The embryo followed up for 2 to 5 days to continue their development. And after that, after 12 days from the embryo transfer, we have, which is the last stage, of course, we have BHCG pregnancy test. They will do it, and after that, they will know if they are pregnant or not. Now we have data analysis. As we see in this figure, this is positive BHCG percentage, which is the indicator of pregnancy. Data from IVF clinic of Near East University Hospital database between 2015 and 2023, as I said before, showed an overall increasing in the positive BHCG results. Of course, as we can see, except here we have between 2019 2020, and all of us know why, due to COVID-19 virus and the worldwide regulation and quarantine. Then the curve, as we can see, of the positive pregnancy started increasing again till it reaches its maximum rate in 2022-23 time interval. Now let's start to see our result here, which is the first one, type of embryo used for positive BHC, which is the result, the positive result, and different IVF modality. This figure describes the 4 IVF modalities for positive pregnancy or positive outcome. The data here was significant for the type of embryos. It was found that the percentage of the positive BHCG were the highest when using fresh embryos in regular IVF, oocyte donation, and sperm donation program. And this one, which is this figure, it's here we have the number of transferred embryos in the 4 IVF modalities for positive BHCG result. It was found that the highest percentage of the positive BHCG calculated when number of embryos transferred are 3 in all the IVF modalities. Here, it's female age groups respective, or let's say in regular, it's a comparison between regular IVF and oocyte donation program. And we are comparing between the success rate in both modality. The figure illustrates a comparison between a regular IVF program and oocyte donation program positive outcome. It was found that the rate of having positive BHCG is the highest when the recipient age is less than 35. Makes sense in both programs, of course. And the rate of success of age over than 40 is higher 20% in oocyte donation program than the regular IVF program, as we can see in the figure. So our conclusion from this analysis, now, we can see from our research exactly has identified several important factors that significantly influence IVF success rates at the Near East IVF clinic. It was found that the recipient age is important in both regular IVF and donation program, and the chance of pregnancy in older female increase in donation program more than the regular IVF. And we found that the origin of oocyte, which is the donor oocyte, yielded a success rate, and embryo quality, higher quality, of course, embryo leading to better outcomes. And we have the number of embryos transferred, if it's 2 or 3, not more, embryos showing a significant positive impact on the pregnancy rate, and the use of fresh embryos demonstrating an advantage over frozen embryo. Finally, understanding these factors empowers us to optimize our IVF protocols, ultimately leading to improved patient outcomes and higher chance of achieving successful pregnancy, which is we want. It's good to say that these positive trends in success rates are a testament to the effectiveness of the continuously evolving IVF protocols and the unwavering commitment for providing exceptional patient care. These are my references, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Manal Ghanam, for your presentation. Thank you very much for your contribution to our conference.
You're welcome, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you again.
If anyone has any question?
If anyone has any question, we will basically forward the questions to your email. So no worries about it.
Tamam. Thank you, hocam. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Our next presenter will be Dr. Natasha, if she is ready. Dr. Natasha Usanesi, are you ready? I think Dr. Natasha is not ready yet. So we can continue our session 4 with one of our keynote speakers, Dr. Mine Durusu Tanrıömer.
As a keynote speaker in this valuable conference. And today I will be speaking about the effects of climate change and its significance in the healthcare community. So we all witnessed the hottest years of the century and maybe the history. So the recent 5-6 years were the hottest of all the humankind that we know and record. So as you can see, just looking at the average temperatures globally, there is a very highly accelerated rise in the global temperatures starting from the Industrial Revolution, coincident with the use of the fossil fuels all over the world. So we now call this the Anthropocene age. So it's the human age, and we define this age as the insults or the changes that we make in the natural environment with human hands. So actually, we are now talking about the climate crisis, and we know that none of the natural processes make enough difference to create this crisis. So the increased greenhouse gas effect created by humanity after the Industrial Revolution, namely the gases of carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, really form a blanket all over the world and increasing the global average temperatures and leading to other coincidences together with the increasing temperatures. So why we call it the crisis is that the current rate of the climate change is so fast compared to past events that human societies and the nature world are really struggling to adapt. So actually, the greenhouse effect is something that we need in order to have a life on Earth, because otherwise we won't have enough heat just to continue the life on Earth. But what happens is that most of the heat is absorbed by these greenhouse gases around the world due to the blanket effect of these gases, and the average temperatures are increasing day by day. So we can witness this as some disasters, like we see, for example, extreme droughts in England, or a flooding in Pakistan, or wildfires all around the world, or even extreme droughts and hunger just threatening many, especially disadvantaged populations in different parts of the world. So when we look at the disasters' economical consequences, you can see that this is the data from the United States. You can see that over the time, especially in the recent 20 years, disasters that cause a financial burden exceeding $1 billion of damage are increasing each year. And severe storm and floods are at the top of these disasters. So, of course, these disasters have a very drastic effects on health, but actually we can see from 3 different lenses the interplay between the climate change and the health. So there are effects of climate on health, and there are effects of climate on the health system as well, and there are effects of the health system on the climate. So actually, when we're talking about the health risk, there are the vulnerability factors, which we can categorized as the demographic factors, geographical factors, like the age and the geographical place people are living, or the biological factors and the health status, like the chronic diseases or some health risks that people are carrying. Of course, together with the socio-political, socio-economical factors, these all comprise vulnerability factors. And climate-related hazards are usually it can be the extreme weather events or extreme heat, but also some other consequences like the sea level rise, air pollution, which is a common denominator due to the use of fossil fuels. And there are changes in the vector distribution and ecology, zoonoses that we call, which are the infections that are distributed and transmitted by animals, and water scarcity and insafety and insecurity of food and some risks in the food production are also climate-related hazards. And people can be much more exposed in certain circumstances to these hazards, like people and communities living already in disadvantaged geographical regions, or who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, or the infrastructure, the energy systems, the water systems, which are not resilient or which are not ready to encounter the risks of the climate change. These all increase the risk of exposure to the climate-related hazards. So at the very end, we will see many health outcomes, and these health outcomes will also have some effects on the health systems and, of course, the facilities. So when we look at the vulnerable and at-risk communities, we can see that some people who are physiologically more prone to these changes are babies and children, pregnant women, and elderly, and also some people living with chronic diseases like diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, chronic lung diseases, and obese and overweight people are at an increased risk against the hazards of the climate change. And in the meantime, people working outdoors may be much more exposed to the disasters or to the increased heat effects of climate change. And people living on the coastline in hot climates are also much more disadvantaged than people living in the inner parts of or the higher parts of the land. And people who are already disadvantaged, like the communities with food and water insecurity, are the ones who are affected most with the effects of these climate crisis. So we can see a vast array of diseases and conditions which we can attribute to climate crisis, and which can be really aggravated by the effects of the climate change. So just maybe to go over each one very briefly. Of course, heat-related diseases are maybe the most important and the most prevalent ones that we have started to see, and we will see more and more over the years. So it may start with some mild symptoms like heat fatigue, heat cramps, and it may really proceed to death and heat stroke with the increasing average temperatures. And especially the babies, the elderly people, obese people are much more at risk to the heat related, to the effects of the increased heat. And their chronic conditions such as asthma, diabetes, kidney disease, and mental health problems may be much more aggravated with increasing temperatures. Of course, we can see many more pathophysiological effects of heat-related conditions on the health, but we can see also some consequences that we may never maybe imagine before, like increase in work accidents, like aggravated psychiatric diseases or suicide, or some risks with particular medications which may be very easily affected with the increasing temperatures. Respiratory diseases and allergies may be aggravated, and we know that especially the surface ozone, the particulate matter, and the toxic gases really cause inflammation in the lungs, and these are all results of the combustion of the fossil fuel. And moreover, if we experience forest fires, some volatile organic compounds in the in the they are in the gases released by these wildfires. They also cause inflammation and damage to the lungs. And we also know that with the increasing temperatures and with the lengthening of the hot seasons, the allergens like the pollens really, they increase in severity, their spread increases over time, and so we end up with an increase in asthma and allergic symptoms in our hospitals. Cardiovascular diseases are very much prone again to air pollution and to increased temperature. And we can see cardiac overload, heart failure, and acute coronary syndrome in already diagnosed cardiovascular patients. And also especially the small particulate matter in the air due to air pollution may be related to newly developing cardiovascular events. And on the long term, when the weather outside is so hot or so polluted, then this may lead to an increase in metabolic and cardiovascular diseases due to a decrease in physical activity in the long term. Waterborne infections are also very important because we know that the average increases in the temperature is not just the increase in the surface temperature, but the temperature of the water is also increasing, and the oceans and the seas are also getting warmer, and also their salinity is also increasing. So what we see is many bacteria, many pathogenic species like the algae, they overgrow and they release their toxins, and we can really come across with an extended geographical location, which is more prone to waterborne infections like Vibrio-related diseases, like hepatitis, and like some viral gastrointestinal diseases, as well as some parasitic diseases. And infections which are distributed and transmitted by animals are also very prone to climate change. So many of the insects, like the mosquitoes, like the ticks, they really expand their geographical localization, and we now see, for example, some mosquitoes which are tropical mosquitoes in the Aegean seaside, in the Mediterranean countries. So these mosquitoes really can adapt to the changing environment very rapidly, and they can transmit many severe diseases like the dengue fever, like Zika infection, yellow fever, West Nile virus, and even malaria. So we are expecting to see malaria cases even at higher altitudes that we have never seen before. And of course, again, the geographical spread and the life habitat of the ticks are also changing, and we will see more Lyme disease and many more tick-borne diseases in different parts of the world that we have never seen before. And climate change is also related with some nutritional problems, because especially the floods, the heavy precipitation, scarcity of water, and drought will all lead to low food availability, low harvest, and damage to the crops. So this low food availability will cause malnutrition, and especially in the disadvantaged populations, the effects will be much more severe. And in the meantime, again, due to some factors related to the industrial farming processes, actually the iron, zinc, and protein content of the soil is decreasing, so that actually even though we consume the same amount of food during over the years, actually we consume less iron, less zinc, and less protein. So this is also another problem which may lead to malnutrition even in developed countries, and even among the socioeconomically high income countries and communities. Of course, these will all trigger inequalities and food insecurity, and just finding really valuable food all over the world will be much harder with the effects of the climate change. And the mental health and nervous system problems are especially very important topics that we very recently started to discuss about, because we now know that, of course, the acute disasters have drastic effects on the mental health of the communities, but there are some long-term climate effects, and one of them is what we call the eco-anxiety. That is the fear for the future in a world where the climate change is causing drastic effects in the environment, and this may lead to an anxiety, especially among the young people. And some psychiatric diseases and neurological diseases may be aggravated by climate change and the environmental pollution. So actually, there are many interfaces where the climate and health of the communities can interact. In the meantime, of course, we also know that where there are risks, there are opportunities for improvement. So it's been stated that trying to fix the climate change can be the greatest public health opportunity of the 21st century, because while you're trying to mitigate and adapt to the new world, you can also build better. You can also make your communities live in a more healthier space. You may strive for more sustainable resources and economy, and you can really create some great communities which have healthy minds and bodies living in harmony with the nature. So first of all, we need to get into action immediately, no time to lose. So we first of all, of course, work on the mitigation strategies, which means that first of all, we want to make sure that health is really the face of the fight against climate crisis. We should always say that a climate crisis is not something that's in the future or that won't affect us, but that's something here today which is affecting our health. So health is a good motivator to make people believe that we really need to act upon the climate change. And of course, a systemic transformation is required to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions at the source, like rebuilding the electricity and transportation, the buildings, the farming, the waste management system, and of course the health system, because the health system itself is a polluter. The carbon footprint of the health system comprises about 4.5% of all the emissions throughout the world. So actually, we really need to have a systemic transformation to decrease the greenhouse gas emissions. And of course, in the meantime, we also work for the adaptation strategies, because the climate change is already here. So we really need to make sure that our infrastructure is climate resilient. We need to make sure that we have some early warning systems to, for example, foresee the heat waves, to foresee or to diagnose a new disease which is emerging due to the transmission from some animals. And we really need to be prepared for the acute shocks of the disasters and also the chronic stresses of the climate change. What we can do to make our health system resilient is actually, there are some building blocks of the health system that need to be rearranged, that need to be transformed in order to create a low carbon health system, which is resilient, which is ready for the impacts of the climate change. So this is the operation framework for building climate resilient and low carbon health systems, which is proposed by the World Health Organization. And you can easily access and just look what's in there in each of the building blocks on how to build up a health system which is capable of really mitigating the risk, foreseeing the risk, and adapting to the risks of the climate change in terms of the health system. And of course, my last words will be on how does climate change impact the landscape of travel medicine, because there are many different interfaces of the travel medicine and the climate change. First of all, of course, there is a huge impact of travel on climate change, and the climate footprint of the travelers is not a small one. So we really need to promote education and ethical travel choices to decrease the emissions and environmental footprint due to travel. And we are we really need to create a more sustainable and responsible travel agenda for destinations, communities, and travelers. And we really need to make some maybe role models for experiencing a sustainable and healthy lifestyle, while also supporting the local economies and contributing to the conservation of the natural resources, rather than just disturbing the environment and the communities where we're traveling. On the other hand, of course, the impact of climate change on travel needs some attention, because due to the consequences of the climate change, sea level rise and extreme weather events may reshape the landscape of travel medicine. And with regards to the life in the oceans, the harmful algal blooms or some toxic bacteria like Vibrio species may really need attention. So we really need to consult or just educate our patients, our friends, families, in order to decrease the risk of having an encounter with these toxic species. And also, of course, we really need to work on the increasing temperatures, heat waves, air pollution, and how to protect the travelers from these untoward effects of the climate change and the fossil fuels. So we need to incorporate education and counseling around health risks of climate change in travel medicine. We really need to get thorough travel histories for emerging diseases, which may come up with some febrile diseases or different types of diseases that we have never encountered, and we need to evaluate the health implications faced by the travelers. So I would like to conclude with this, and I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mine Durusu, for your contribution. Our next presenter will be Dr. Natasha Usanasi. Yes, Natasha Hocam, we can see you and hear you. Whenever you are ready, you can start your presentation.
All right. Let me share my screen. Can you see my slides?
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natasha Usanasi from Operation Research Center in Healthcare, EIST University. And today I'm going to introduce you to one of our studies on evaluation of ovarian cancer screening and diagnostic techniques using fusipromethine. So we are going to talk about, to understand more on ovarian cancer. We'll see the aim of the study, the screening and diagnostic techniques, as well as the MCDM applications. We'll see the methodology used in the study and the results, and we end up concluding our study. So in short, ovarian cancer is the abnormal growth of cells that forms in ovaries. Mostly comes up with bloating, nausea, abdominal discomfort, urinary system, disinfection, or backache, exhaustion, or even weight loss as some of their symptoms. This is one of the most prevalent and fatal cancer in women worldwide, as it's on the 8th rank for the cancers seen in women. 324,000 people are diagnosed every year, and even 207,000 people die of this cancer every year. And when it comes to future predictions, more numbers are estimated to come, because above 20,000 numbers will increase in new cases, speaking of the next year, 2025, and the death may also rise in more than 20,000, depending on the diagnosis and fatality numbers that are seen every year. So the aim of our study is to evaluate and compare 5 main screening and diagnostic methods for ovarian cancer using fusipromethrin. Some of the screening and diagnostic methods that are used in ovarian cancer are core needle biopsy, transvaginal sonography, CT scan, chest X-ray to see if it has metastasized in maybe lungs, and PET. So when it comes to multi-criteria decision making, one of operation research processes that offers decision makers approaches that are well suited to the sophistication of decision problems. This approach helps decision makers to focus on relevant criteria and also making an appropriate decision. So fusipromethrin specifically, which is the method used in this study, is a hybrid of fusilogic and promethrin technique dealing with uncertainty or biased data, but also giving us the preference ranking of what we are evaluating. This is one of the best methodologies for analyzing complex raw data in MCDM. So it has been applied in numerous fields like environmental sciences, financial analysis, medical decision making, and even engineering sciences. There are more applications, but these are just a few listed. So the criteria considered in this study are the cost, sensitivity, specificity, the accuracy, resolution range, the duration, the use of radiation, the discomfort of the patient, and even recovery time from the diagnostic method. So running the fusipromethrin program, core needle biopsy came as the best preferable method with high net flow and high positive outranking flow, which is this value, and lesser negative outranking flow, whereas PET came as the least preferable method. So if you can see well on this diagram, one of the reasons that core needle biopsy came as the first is its advantage of being less expensive, meaning it can even be easily affordable and has small recovery time, takes small time as the treatment time, and is still specific and high accurate during the diagnosis. And the reason why PET came the least preferable is that it is more costly and less specific and had a long time duration as the treatment. Even the sensitivity of PET is lower in this ovarian cancer diagnosis. So to conclude, in this study, 5 different screening and diagnostic methodology have been evaluated using fusipromethrin, and the core needle biopsy ranked first, whereas PET ranked the 5th among the compared alternatives in regards to the weights given to the important selected criteria. So these outcomes and the emphasis on this study will help gynecologists and even oncologists to choose what type of technique to utilize for detecting ovarian cancer earlier, but also considering the patient's preference, but while giving the better healthcare provision. So thank you for your kind attention. If there is no problems or questions, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Natasha, for your any contribution to our conference today. Thank you very much.
Welcome, welcome.
So, everyone, that was the end of the session 4, and session 5 will start at 3 o'clock. Thank you very much.